I read a transcript. I watched clips from the speech. I haven't watched it all the way through, but I have a distinct impression, and I don't think it depends on having seen the whole thing all the way through. It was there was a kind of brilliance to it, a diabolical brilliance, but brilliance. And the idea was that this was a speech that you could read two ways. There's a very benign interpretation of the speech and of the setting, right? You could say, well, that's unfortunate lighting, but if you zoomed out, it was blue and red, and it was only the zoomed in that had it
looking all fiery and bloody satanic.
And yes. Right, exactly. Yeah. I don't think that was an accident. I don't think it could possibly have been an accident. For one thing, these people are masters of stagecraft, and the fact is a president has a given size. So the degree to which the cameras will zoom in order to make him appropriate sized as the speech is viewed
and recognizable.
Right, is well understood. So everything from the Marines behind him to the isolation in the red screen, the red background, that was all intentional. And then the idea that, well, if you zoomed out, there was blue there too, and it didn't look quite as fascist and bloody and all of that. That's their defense for it, right? And what's more, I found this image that comes from V for Vendetta, which looks like they are intentionally trying to evoke it. I believe they are, right down to the window with the cross in it, which is much higher in the shot with Biden than it is in the movie. But nonetheless, it looks to me like this is an intentional juxtaposition. I'm not saying that window wasn't there, but I'm saying that they found a location, they came up with a justification for the location, they created the lighting, they wanted to evoke that. And this leads me to an interpretation I haven't heard elsewhere. Forgive me if it's out there and I've missed it. There's always this uncomfortable argument about fascism and the right. Right? Fascism is a defect of the extreme right. And the right, not necessarily the extreme right, but the right often grumbles and protests, right, about national socialists, but were they really socialists? No. So yes, it was on the right, right? You can get into this morass. But I realized something in watching Biden, reading the speech, which is that there is the sine qua non of fascism is this hybrid between corporate power and governmental power, right? It is also, fascism, inherently about theft, right? The idea is fascists target somebody and justify the liquidation of their wealth, well-being, whatever, to generate phony growth for those who are in the fascist cabal. Now,
that sounds true to me, but I don't know. I won't claim to be a political scientist or a historian enough to say that it feels to me that isn't unique to fascism, that there are several political ways of being,
sure,
which are predicated on we are going to alienate, we're going to make enemies of some piece of the population so as to unify the rest. And
right. I don't disagree. Obviously, if we are to say that fascism involves a hybrid between government and corporate power, then that obviously puts a relatively recent start date on when fascism is invented. And my real point is, some will have heard me talk about the idea that the West is a very powerful mechanism for generating well-being and insight and fairness, but it is a very fragile mechanism. And the point is that when that fragile mechanism is disturbed, it defaults into a more robust, more primitive state. And so I believe that what fascism is it is tapping into a very ancient mode that pre-exists corporations and pre-exists formalized government, right? A lineage against lineage conflict mechanism in which the stagnation of your lineage is jump-started by going after people who are too vulnerable to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. So here's the reason that this is important in this speech. The speech, again, can be interpreted two different ways, and one of them is very benign, right? Mm-hmm. This is a frustrated grandpa who is in charge of the country, who is telling us, unify, right? The people who are against unity are the problem. Oh, that's interesting. You just singled out a bunch of people while you were proclaiming unity, right? What do I do with that contradiction? But here's what I'm getting at. I don't think there's anything really left-wing about the blue team. Nothing other than their rhetoric, right? Even to the extent that they want to do some things that are nominally associated with progressivism. It's an excuse, right? It's a lost leader that is designed to continue the march of these already powerful people and their concentration of wealth and power. But the point is, look, I do think fascism may be more likely to emerge on the right, but I don't think it inherently lives there. And that what we are seeing is a almost overtly fascist movement that will protest that label. But you've got, I mean, even this week we saw documents emerge in which the executive branch was having regular meetings about who to censor online, who their partners in tech should censor online, right? That is the fusion of corporate power and government power. What's more, it is an egregious violation of our First Amendment rights. What's more, in this speech, the president uses the phrase clear and present danger. And clear and present danger is one of these phrases. It sounds like a linguistic flourish, right? It sounds like good oratory, good speech making. It is in fact a term that has a very serious legal consequence. Clear and present danger is the argument that we have the right to forego First Amendment speech rights in certain circumstances, right? So in isolating or attempting to isolate what he calls MAGA Republicans from regular Republicans, right? And from the rest of us, and to make them the demons, the insurrectionists, those who do not respect democracy, right? By doing that and then invoking the rhetoric of clear and present danger, what he's effectively saying is, yep, First Amendment, this is not the moment for it. This is the moment for censorship, and we are the people who are going to do the censoring. And why are we doing it? We are doing it for the good of the nation, which is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard, right? It is absolutely mind-boggling that these people, right, these people who I will point out have demonized us, right? Demonized us for stuff we turned out to be right about, who invoked their right to censor behind closed doors, didn't tell us what it was, did not allow us to see the evidence that was being used to make these rulings in private, to demonetize us, to go after our ability to earn. These same people, right, are now brazenly in public invoking legal terminology for exempting themselves from First Amendment protections as they claim to be defending the idea that, free and fair elections are important. There are winners and there are losers, and it is incumbent on those of us who have lost to just simply accept it when they themselves don't do that. Right? In the last election, right, the prior one, they were complaining about Russian collusion, and that turned out to be bullshit. That was just a story. So the point is, you've got two sides who are now, at least, if we give them the benefit of the doubt, distrustful of the quality of our elections and their integrity, right? And for them to portray themselves as those who accept the results of elections and the other people are bad because they don't accept the results of election is just, it's a completely selective review of history. So my only point is, I think we need to take very seriously the fact that not only is there the evidence that these people have fascist inclinations. I'm not saying they alone have fascist inclinations. There are fascist inclinations on the other side too. But they are now actively playing with the symbolism right? That blood red background, right? The ranting demagogue. What does it allude to? It alludes to V for Vendetta, which is a movie adored by the left. And I think the key thing, the message here is this is your fascism, right? This is a fascism of the left, and the people we are going to go after are your enemies. So don't worry about the fact that we are going to suspend all kinds of rights because you're going to come out ahead, right? And I think that this could not possibly be more dangerous, right? These people have demonstrated a complete indifference to human suffering and the loss of human life, and to have them intentionally playing with these symbols and modes is that's nature's way of telling you where you are in history, and we damn well better listen.
Excellent. Just one thing to add. It triggers it's the same kind of trick, rather, as what do you need privacy for if you've got nothing to hide? What are you so worried about this for? We're going after the people that we all know are bad.
Yep.
What do you need your rights for? You can count on us to protect you.
Right. And it's this dumb little trick. It's like, well, just check if you're in the category of the people that we're about to go after. If you're not, don't worry and join us. And it's like, no, the West is absolutely dependent on the idea that we agree on the project more than we support our team, right? Yes. It's dependent on that.
That's it right there. That's it.
And, I have to tell you, I think the big obstacle here is that anybody who hears us or others alarmed that what we saw was fascist symbolism is going to do exactly what they have been primed to do, which is to say that speech, yes, the lighting was unfortunate. The camera angles were, they shouldn't have had, in retrospect, the Marines standing behind him. Yeah, none of that should have happened, but, right? And then they're going to give the excuse.
There's an archaic, there's a way still that people in government who, as you say, are masters of stagecraft, they have access to all of the best everything, from Hollywood, from everything. But they still want to be able to be like, oh gosh, we're just government folk. Like our bad. We didn't know. And I agree with you. I don't think errors that large will routinely get made at this level.
No, it's and the illusion is too direct. We were meant to not be able to look away from the comparison between the V for Vendetta image and this speech. And then that primes you to sound crazy to the ears of anybody who has the excuse making mode. And again, the speech can be read two ways, right? The blue and red version of this speech is like, this is Grandpa, he's frustrated, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the zoom in and it's, oh my God, we're targeting Americans and we are invoking our right to exempt ourselves from the First Amendment, right? It's two different speeches took place simultaneously there. And the problem is that those who will make excuses for this they've been fed the material with which to make those excuses, and it is going to make it impossible to make the case, hey, this ought to alarm everybody, right? I don't care if this is your team or not. If your team is on this kind of a trip, you need to rein them in and figure out how to get them back to reason, because this is the route to a tragedy of history. So I don't know. I also think, I don't know what to make of the connection between this and this Dark Brandon meme. You've not encountered it? No. So I actually initially thought the Dark Brandon thing was okay. It suggested a kind of playfulness on the blue team, that they were going to lean into the...
I don't know what it is.
Well, you remember the Let's Go Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
So Let's Go Brandon happened. The right adopted Let's Go Brandon as effectively an open code phrase for fuck you, Biden.
Right.
And then the left started responding with these kind of comic book memes in which Biden was sort of a like a sinister, powerful force, right? They cartoonified him, and it was called Dark Brandon. And
who did this? The left.
The left.
Or the right? Okay. Why would the left make him sinister?
Because in a comic book modality, the fact that he is powerful and you know, he's not I've only just seen it, but the idea is that, you know, you don't necessarily hate every dark character in the comic book. You may be rooting for a certain dark character. I don't know, something. So the idea is you've got this feeble, mentally failing guy, and the left is actually claiming it's sort of the equivalent of the right claiming that Trump is playing four-dimensional chess, right? Is he really like a bumbling bombast? No, he's playing four-dimensional chess. You only think he's a bumbling bombast because he wants you to, right? And this is like, right. And so this is, you know, is Biden really losing his marbles? Is he, you know, being heavily managed because they can't let him off script?
Maybe we can just relegate both of them to the comic books and be done with them both.
There's a Pink Floyd song at the Fletcher Memorial, Home for Incurable Tyrants and Kings. Yeah,
yes.
It's that sort of thing. Well, anyway, all right, rant over. Let's just say that to the extent that there might have been hope in the left being playful with Dark Brandon, I think that has now become a very sinister way of presenting this new demonizing of a particular minority for the purpose of targeting them in a fascist transition.